ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ वर्स नंबर 11 अभानेन परं प्रेम भानेन विषये स्पृहा अतो भानेप्यभातासौ परमानन्दतात्मनः So आत्मनि अभाने सति आत्मनि परम प्रेम न संभवति. So this is how the Anvaya is of this verse. So Atmani abhane sati Atmani param prema na bhavati. Atmani bhave bhane sati vishaye spruha na sambhavati. Atah Atmanah asau paramanandata bhane api abhata iva bhavati. This is how the Anvaya is. I will explain you. So up to verse number 10. One topic was covered, and that is Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. The identity between the Jiva and Paramatma has been covered. The Swarupam of Jivatma has been revealed as a Satchidananda logically. With the help of logic, we have arrived at that Jivatma's Swarupam, the nature of a Jivatma is Satchidananda. And then it has been equated with Param Brahma in the verse number 10 itself. Like Tathavidam Param Brahma Itham Satchit Paranandaha Atma Yuktya Bhavati Tathavidam Param Brahma Api Tatha iti Shrutyanteshu Upadishyate. Through logic we have arrived that Atma is or Jivatma is Satchidananda. Tathavidam in the same manner. Well, Param Brahma also is Satchidananda. That has been revealed not by Yukti, not by logic, that has been revealed in the Shrutyanteshu, means in Vedanta it has been revealed as a Satchidananda. And that is how Atma also is Satchidananda, Param Brahma is Satchidananda, and therefore definition of both or nature of both is same, one and the same, and therefore both are one thing alone, both are identical. And that is how identity between Jivatma and Paramatma has been revealed. So that is the topic. It is over from verse number 2 to verse number 10. Then second, now the question is, but why should the Upanishad give us this teaching? What is the need of this, telling all these things? So we are already learning so many different things, in Upanishad. In so many varied subjects we are learning in schools and colleges and everywhere. What is the need of these Upanishads to reveal this? And so what is the need of revealing this Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam? Because, I don't know that I am Param Brahma. I am limitless consciousness. Well, that is not there. There is Ajnanam there. And if it is Ajnanam, well, there is no problem. But this ignorance has created several problems also. We call it as a samsara. Samsara means there are three characteristics of this disease. It's a universal disease. It's a pandemic. It's a pandemic, and this pandemic will remain forever. So far the humanity is concerned, this is going to be there. And everyone is infected by this disease. So then that is the characteristic of this disease is first thing, attachment. Second thing, that sorrow. And third thing, delusion. Three characteristics are there of this disease. In Sanskritam it is called ragaha, shokaha, mohaha. And that is the suffering. All the three are there here in the head. So therefore, that is the suffering. Even though we have plenty of things, because of this disease, with this characteristic is present, we are not able to enjoy our life. And therefore, well, once you know that you are Brahman, means you are free from this disease, and then definitely, you can enjoy your life. That is what the purpose is. And so, in absence of this knowledge of this Aikyam, basically one has a suffering, and therefore, and the cause of this suffering is one minute. The cause of this suffering is ignorance ultimately. I don't know that I am Brahman. I am free from all the problems I don't know. And therefore life itself becomes like a kind of a prison. We are all bound as though. So our bodies appear as a prison for us, and especially in our old age, etc. And so a great majority of the humanity, of course, they are not interested in searching out the cause of this samsara. But anyway, Upanishads have diagnosed this cause of this disease, and they say this ignorance is the cause of this disease. Ajnanam eva samsarasya karanam. Therefore, Ajnanam is the cause of the samsara. And then to remove this cause, in order to remove the disease, is very important. And therefore, Upanishad provides a solution. Solution is one alone. When ignorance is there, the solution is knowledge. So, Upanishad provides the knowledge of the Atma, and that is Atma is Param Brahma, etc., etc. And therefore, basically, one can become free. And therefore, now the second topic, of course, is very essential, which tells us, verse number 11 to verse number 14, tells us that Ajnanam is a cause of this samsara. So even though you are limitless, but you don't know it. So verse 11 to 14 gives a description of this Ajnanam, which is a samsara karanam. And verse number 15 to 32, let's together also, let me tell you, verse 15 to 32 is how this, samsara varnanam, description of this disease. And that is samsara experienced by the humanity. The description is there between verse number 15 to 32. Anyway, so once we understand the problem of a samsara, and then that is which is the cause of the which has a cause in self-ignorance, well, then jnanam is the relevant thing, and that is how Vedanta becomes meaningful. So now let's talk about this ignorance. And when we have a ignorance and it is total, it is wonderful, really. Ignorance is bliss. Total ignorance is really a bliss. Total knowledge also is a bliss. Both the things are bliss. So in deep sleep state, in a sushupti, well, we have a total ignorance. And one is not aware of anything. One is not aware of oneself, one is not aware of any other thing. And even one exists in a deep sleep, that also one is not aware of. And then there is no problem at all in deep sleep, we enjoy also. And total knowledge, like a wise man, like a Siddha Prajna. He has a total knowledge. He knows that I am limitless, etc. And then he also does not have any samsara. And therefore, basically, and very beautifully said in chapter 3 in Bhagavad Gita, Yastvatmarati revasyat atmatruptasya manavaha atmani evacha santushtah tasya karyam na vidyate. Yastvatmarati revasyat atmatruptaha. one who is having a total satisfaction with oneself. One can be satisfied with oneself when one knows that I am limitless. I don't lack anything. If you have a sense of lack within, how can you be satisfied with yourself? And therefore, in your awareness, suppose you know that I am limitless and I don't lack anything, then you are totally satisfied with yourself. Atma truptihi. So atmaratihi atma truptihi atmani eva cha santushtah tasya karyam na vidyate. And therefore for him there is nothing to be done in this creation. Anyway, so one who has a knowledge of oneself, he is also have no problem at all. I mean, this samsara etc. is not there for him also. But one who is totally ignorant has no problem. One who is having a total knowledge also is not a problem. But what happens in the waking state, basically it is little different. So of course one has a partial knowledge about oneself. So one is not totally ignorant like in a deep sleep state. In a waking state, one is aware of oneself. I know that I am, and but I don't have a total knowledge of what I am or who I am, and so I don't know that I am a Brahman. So this partial knowledge leads to several misconceptions. I know I am, but I don't know that I am Brahman. In such a situation, you take yourself to be other than Brahman. Whatever, I mean, all misconceptions are there regarding yourself. And all misconceptions have a one base. I mean, one thing is common in all misconceptions, that I am a limited entity. That's all. I am a limited entity. And that brings us so much discomfort with oneself, one cannot settle. So, only in a few moments of joy, when somebody cracks a joke or when you see something very beautiful, temporarily you are relieved from this discomfort. Again it starts, and therefore basically all misconceptions are there, but one thing is common in all misconceptions, that I am a limited entity. I lack, I have lack within, etc. And therefore basically one remains uncomfortable during waking state. That is called samsara. So this partial knowledge of oneself ultimately leads to misconception, and then there is samsara also. So Vidyaranya gives an example, a classic example of a rope snake. So when you have a rope, in total darkness there is no problem, because you don't see anything, and therefore blissfully ignorant. And suppose it is lying on the road and total darkness is there, and a rope is lying, you put your leg also on it and walk away. But in bright light, so there is a bright light. I mean, total light is also there. Then also presence of rope is there for you, and you won't see a snake. There is no problem at all. But when there is a partial darkness, I mean, basically partial light, partial darkness, we call it as a semi-darkness, etc. In that you have a partial knowledge about the rope, and that there is something which is about 4 to 5 feet long and which is 2 inches thick lying on my way, and you are not able to see exactly what it is because of a semi-darkness, and therefore you take it as a snake. A misconception arises when there is a partial knowledge of a thing, and that partial knowledge this misconception leads to fear, because instead of a rope you see as a snake, and therefore so it becomes it's an ideal setting, I mean, for basically mistaking the rope as a snake. Similarly, in the Sushupti Avastha, and the person who is a wise, I mean, one who gains the knowledge, there is no problem at all. And but when there is a waking state, and of course ignorance about oneself is there, then you mistake yourself as a jivatma, as a limited entity, as an individual. Like in that, semi-darkness, you take it yourself, you take the rope as a snake, and that misconception leads to, fear, etc. Same way, here also you have a partial knowledge of yourself. Ignorance is that because partial knowledge means if you know that I am Brahman, I am limitless, there is no problem. Like a wise man does not have any problem. He doesn't have any samsara. The person who has a total ignorance, he also has no problem. Like in a deep sleep state, you don't have any problem. But when you have, when you in a waking state, you have ignorance also about yourself. What you don't know who you are really, and at the same time you know also yourself that I am, etc. I know I am, and therefore it leads to all misconception. I am human being, I am this, I am that, etc., etc. And all those misconceptions create samsara. Basically, that creates a sense of individuality, sense of limitation, sense of discomfort, and it leads to several problems. So you mistake yourself as an individual, see yourself as a karta, bhokta, etc. Everywhere problem. Whatever you take, no, that is not a problem. Whatever you want to take yourself, you can take it. But that is a misconception, and that misconception leads to sorrow. Nothing else. It will lead to attachment, it will lead to sorrow, it will lead to delusion. All the three things will be there. If a misconception regarding yourself will be there. And therefore, then you consider yourself as a victim of prarabdha, etc. Also, you will consider as a bhokta, you will consider yourself as a karta, you will have a guilt, a sense of a guilt, and you will have a sense of hurt also as a bhokta, guilt as a karta. Anyway, so this is happening. So if Atma is totally unknown, well, then there will not be a problem like in a deep sleep state. Total knowledge like a wise man, no problem, but partial knowledge we have. And so basically, this is a situation which has been described here. Abhanena param prema. Abhanena param prema. Abhane means unknown. Atmani abhane. So if Atmani means it's a seventh case, you should understand it is a Vishaya Saptami with regards to the self. If there is unknownness. So if Atma is totally unknown, Atmani abhane, param prema na bhavati, will not have a self-love. So if you really, if your Atma is totally unknown to you, you will not have a self-love at all. But you have a self-love. And it is providing you ananda also. And therefore, you must be recognizing yourself partially, not totally. Whenever a shining surface is there, I am ready to see myself. Whether it is a new car or whether it is anywhere a shining surface, immediately, whatever my age, I don't bother. But at least I will have a look inside. How do I look? That shows self-love. As such, he has a lot of complaining about the wrinkles and everything. He has several complaints about himself. He doesn't, old age. But when he becomes happy, he transcends all these problems. He transcends and gets a joy. So that shows what you can transcend is not your nature. That is very simple. What you can transcend is not your nature. It lives behind you. It lives behind you. And therefore, anyway, I just don't want to go into. But abhanena param prema. Basically, if your Atma is totally unknown, you will not have a love towards yourself. Bhane vishaya spruha na bhavati. Atma is totally known, then also there is no problem. Then you will not have go with the begging bowl in the morning in the world, right? Vishaya spruha na bhavati. Vishaya spruha. I go with the everyday morning with the begging bowl. That please give me some joy, etc., etc. So basically, Vishaya spruha, the desire for the Vishaya, so nobody will have a desire for the sense objects if you know yourself totally. So bhane means if you know yourself totally, Atmani bhane sati, Vishaya spruha na bhavati. This is how the Anvaya is. Well, with regard to Atma, if you have a total knowledge, well, you won't have a desire for happiness in the outer world because you know you are the source of Ananda. But I go in search of objects for happiness, which can give me happiness. That shows, that I don't know myself. And if I don't know myself totally, then there cannot be a self-love also. Because wherever there is a love, You must be getting a ananda through that. And therefore, if you have a self-love, when self is providing you the ananda, that means you know yourself also partially. You know yourself, you don't know yourself. This is a situation. So normally we see that we have a self-love and also attachment towards the external world. I mean, what I want to convey is you love yourself and you love the world. Whatever, few objects. You love yourself and you love the object. So that is fine, Swamiji. That is very good. That's what the Vedanta teaches. Ultimately, knowledge should not, knowledge if you gain in the buddhi, but it doesn't translate into your life, then there is what is the point in gaining the knowledge? So one should have a love for everything. You should love everything. You love yourself and you love everything. So that is good. If you love the world not for the sake of world. A wise man loves a world for the sake of world. Samsari loves a world for himself. That's the difference. That's the difference. And that is how I said it's a fake love. It's a fake love. Love for any person in the world, love for any object in the world is a fake love. I love and I allow. That's what the situation is. Wise man loves unconditionally, knowing that everything is me. It's an unconditional love. Yesterday I have told you, you love the world conditionally. If that object, that person satisfy the condition which you have set, then you love. If he miserably fails in fulfilling the condition, you don't love. You say, I am allowing you, I am not loving you, I am allowing you. And therefore, love towards objects is really a fake love. It is, he says that prema bhasaha. It is not premaha, it is prema abhasaha. Vidyaranya says somewhere, here or somewhere, I don't remember now. But that is how he says. So it is abhasa. It is not there at all. And therefore, don't say that this is a very, very nice situation. You love yourself and you love the world also. That's not. And unconditional love means you love everyone. Conditional love means you love few things. Yeah. Whoever satisfies the condition you love. Whatever does not satisfy the condition you don't love. And therefore, a Ajnani, a Samsari has a love for the world, basically partial, not the entire world. Jnani identifies with the everyone. Sarva bhutastham atmanam, sarva bhutani cha atmani, etc., etc. And therefore, he sees himself everywhere. And so his self has become so big now. His self is not confined to the one body. He is identified with everyone. And because he knows he's everything. He knows that. And therefore, he loves the people unconditionally. He loves the self unconditionally. Everyone loves the self unconditionally. And he sees the self everywhere. And therefore, his love for everyone is also unconditional. And that will remain forever. That remain forever. Therefore, this is a situation, love for others and love for the self shows ignorance. For a samsari, it's a ignorance. Yeah, few things you love outside, but Swamiji, but you love means that must be a source of happiness. Yeah, yesterday we have finished. Now we should not say again. We should not say again. Either a conscious being can be a source of love, or inert objects can be a source of love. That's a contention. That's a contention. What is a source of love? Either a conscious being is a source of love, a source of joy, or the objects are the source of joy. What is the source of joy? That you decide. What is the source of joy? Why you are saying like this? Why you are saying like this? I have already given you 3-page note in Tattva Bodha that objects do not have happiness. If you go through that, you will find that the love for the objects also is just because they cannot give you happiness, and therefore they have they just give you, I mean, they are giving you a happiness but not really. There is just what we can say abhasa. It's an abhasa of ananda, and therefore therefore prema abhasa, the love for the objects also is prema abhasa. And therefore basically this situation of a samsari is a very pathetic situation. Really he loves oneself, and but he doesn't know that I am the source of ananda. That's a problem. So there is a partial knowledge and partial ignorance. Exactly partial knowledge of a rope, partial ignorance of the rope creates a misconception regarding the rope that it is a snake, and that creates a problem. Same way, partial knowledge of oneself. I know that I am. If I say, do you know yourself? You say, yeah, I am a conscious being, etc. But you don't know that you are everything. You are limitless consciousness, you don't know. You are Brahman, you don't know. And therefore, partial ignorance also is there of yourself. Partial knowledge also you have of yourself. And that is a situation where misconception is going to arise regarding the self. And every misconception is going to give you suffering. It is just give you suffering. Because it's not your nature, and you have imposed upon yourself. And therefore you are struggling to come out of it. Because that's not your nature. What is not your nature? Well, you don't like to keep it with you. Therefore you want to give it up. Therefore heat, water always wants to give up the heat. It struggles to give up the heat. When it gets coolness, it remains in that state. That's a natural state for a water, to be cool. That's its nature. Same way here. So this struggle to come out of this misconception. I don't know that I am having misconception. Because of ignorance, all this misconception arisen, and then I struggle throughout the life, which is called samsara. And therefore ajnanam eva samsarasya karanam. Therefore ignorance regarding the self. But what kind of ignorance? You can understand now. Partial knowledge, partial ignorance you have regarding yourself. You know that I am a conscious being, but you don't know that I am a source of ananda basically. I am limitless, etc. I don't know. And therefore this problem arises. Ataha, therefore, asau par atmanaha paramanandata, this ananda sarupa is, atma is ananda sarupa, bhane api abhata bhavati, is evident that atma is ananda sarupa is evident, but not totally. If that is the case, you will not have a desire for objects. Asau paramanandata, atmanaha paramanandata. This Atma is basically Paramananda, is the only source of joy, greatest source of joy, etc. If you don't know, then only if that you know basically, then Vishaya Spruha na bhavati. Then in all the sense objects you do not have any desire, and therefore you don't know yourself. That is also correct. You have partial knowledge of yourself, you have partial ignorance also of yourself. Partial knowledge, partial ignorance leads to misconception regarding oneself. So our real problem is partial knowledge about ourselves and partial ignorance. And now this has been explained through example by Vidyaranya Swami. Adhyetru varga madhyastha puttradhyayana shabdavat bhanepya bhanam bhanasya pratibandhena yujyate. Vidyaranya gives an example of a father. Adhyetru varga madhyastha putra adhyayana shabdavat. Vat means example. Vat means example. Vat is equal to, in English it is called like. So he gives an example of a father who himself is a priest, let us say, who has studied in a Pathshala. He is a Vaidika, and he has put his son also now in a Pathshala. And then he visits Gurukulam. How is my son studying, etc. And then definitely, then when he visits his son, and at that time the teacher was teaching him all this, he was teaching the Vedic mantras, chanting of Vedic mantras. And so father of course knows a voice of his son. But Vidyaranya asks the question here, does the father hear his son's voice or not? That's what he asks the question. And he himself answers also that father hears his son's voice but not distinctly enough. And so he says there is a partial knowledge and partial ignorance of his son's voice. And this is a situation in our class also. When we chant, When I say let's chant now Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, then if I ask that let you chant one by one, nobody will be ready. Nobody will be ready. Because if he chants alone, then I will be able to hear and I will be able to pinpoint the mistakes also. Where the point, in a pronunciation of letters, etc. So always people chant together. So even if so it looks that I am chanting, and at the same time teacher will never come to know my mistakes also, because all are chanting. It's a chorus chanting. And so teacher will always have a partial knowledge and partial ignorance of the students' pronunciation of Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. Partial knowledge I have, partial ignorance also I have. This is the situation. Nobody I have seen till today, if I tell, please, now you begin, like I tell one student in the class, please begin. Yeah, chapter 15. Or in that, our dining hall. I tell one person, okay, you begin, then other will join. He will not begin. He always joins in chorus. So that it appears that there is a chanting going on, and at the same time what I chant should not be known by teacher also. And therefore it goes on like that. Same thing is happening here. So actually his son is not, he doesn't want deliberately to do that, but this is because all the students are chanting together. So, and he is a father, he knows his son's voice, so he could make out, that he is chanting, but what he is chanting, he doesn't know. That's the situation. Partial ignorance, partial knowledge. He is giving an example of that. Putra adhyayana shabdavat adhyetru varga madhyasya. Adhyetru means this Vedic students. Adhyetru varga madhyasya, amidst all the Vedic students. Well, the son is also chanting the Vedic mantras. Putra adhyayana. Adhyayana means the chanting of the Vedic mantra. So the son is also chanting the Vedic mantra, and his voice is known and unknown also. Tadvat, similarly, Atmanah Swarupam api, the nature of Atma also, Bhane api abhanam bhavati. So nature of Atma also is known partially, known also, and abhanam means unknown also. And that is called partially known. So Atma, basically the nature of Atma also is partially known. So you can say nature of Atma is known and unknown, means partially known. But what is the cause of phenomena of this partial knowledge? Well, in the case of a rope snake, we have already seen that partial light, partial darkness, etc. is the cause. In the case of boys chanting, what is that obstacle by which I am not able to hear him completely? Pratibandhena bhanasya, it is because of the partial audibility. Well, many other voices in the chorus are an obstruction for the father to recognize clearly the voice of his own son, basically. So that's an obstruction. The chorus chanting is an obstruction. So definitely, just as in the case of a rope snake, definitely the partial light, partial darkness is the obstacle, and for not knowing the rope. Same way here in Adhyetru Varga Shabdas, there also the chorus chanting is basically, chorus chanting means what? You cannot know, you can know that your son is chanting, but you cannot know what he is chanting. So partial ignorance, partial knowledge, that becomes the basis. Anyway, so that is an obstruction that is has been described here. Now in verse number 30. Pratibandhosti bhatiti vyavharaharha vastuni tannirasya viruddhasya tasyotpadanamuchyate. Asti bhati iti vyavhara arha vastuni. Asti bhati iti vyavhara arha vastuni. Vyavhara means a transaction. Arha means basically it is I am able to know. The object has a certain status. Let us say object has a certain status for a transaction. What kind of a transaction? So it has been told as asti bhati. Asti bhati iti vyavhara. So it is, the object is there. How can you say object is there? Basically because object is evident to you. See, this evident, etc. all the time you may feel, what is this? You can replace the word evident, really. You can replace it. Object is experienced, that's all. When anything is experienced, you can prove its existence. That's all it means. So, evident or knowability or experience, etc. is the same thing. Sometimes this evident is, what is this evident? Somebody asked me, what is this evidence here? So, anyway, experience. So, basically, something which is experienced and therefore existent can be concealed by obstacle. And that's how the pratibandha has been defined here. Asti bhati iti vyavhara arhavastuni tan nirasya tasya viruddhasya utpadanam pratibandha sati uchyate. So something which is experienced and therefore it is existent can be concealed by the pratibandha or obstacle. And so pratibandha does what? What is experienced will definitely, or what is evident becomes non-evident. What is existent becomes non-existent because of pratibandha. Pratibandha does this job. The evidence of an object is distorted by non-evidence of the object. The existence of the object is distorted to non-existence of the object. That's all it means. A distortion. So it's a pratibandha. Anyway, so the obstacle or pratibandha conceals something which is evident and existent. So asti means existent, bhati means evident or experienced, or I know the object, etc. That becomes as though non-evident, non-existent. So it makes us say that the object which is really evident and existent is not evident and non-existent. Then you should say, well, there is a pratibandha. So asti bhati iti vyavhara arhavastuni, about an object which is evident and existent, one should say that it is so because object deserves. Arha means object deserves such a description. What description it deserves? It is like this. This object, right? This is an object. If pratibandha is not there, let's say if pratibandha is not there, what will I say? What is my transaction? In terms of what is my verbal transaction? Let's say verbal transaction. What is the verbal usage? Pen is evident and therefore pen is. Or pen is experienced and therefore pen is. I know the pen and therefore pen is. All this kind of a transaction. Asti bhati iti vyavhara. This is called like this. Arha. So pen deserves this kind of a vyavhara. That it is evident, that kind of a vyavhara is possible. But if pratibandha is there, as though this becomes non-evident and non-existent. That's what it means. And therefore, so pratibandha makes us say opposite. What will you say then? What kind of a verbal usage will be there? Nasti, right? Instead of asti, I will say what? Nasti. Instead of bhati, I will say what? Na bhati. That's what is happening. That is what is happening in rope snake, right? Rope is not, and rope is not evident. Rope is not experienced, and rope is not. And instead, a misconception arises regarding the rope. And what is that misconception? Snake is, and snake is evident, right? You experience the snake, and therefore you say snake is. So this kind of a thing arises. What is evident and what is existent as though covered totally and appears as though non-evident, non-existent. Therefore, you should understand that there is a pratibandha. Misconception also can arise out of this pratibandha. So, tan nirasya means, but if obstacle is there, it makes just the opposite. Tan nirasya means by negating that. By negating the evidence of evident thing and existence of a existent thing, Tasya viruddhasya utpadanam. Tasya viruddhasya utpadanam. It generates the opposite idea. What is evident? It generates the idea of a non-evidence. What is existent, instead it generates an idea of a non-existence. So that's the opposite idea. Nirasya means negating it. So this is how it has been told here. So there are pratibandhas are of two types basically. Pratibandhas are of two types, and first pratibandha is called concealment. Like, you know, this there is a clip. Clip is existent and clip is evident. Both the things are there. Now see, there is a pratibandha. Now my verbal transaction of your will be what? Clip is not evident, etc., etc. So viruddha, utpadanam. So basically it creates an entirely different kind of a notion. So that is pratibandha. But this pratibandha is called a concealment. So this is very popular. This kind of pratibandha is very, very popular. Well, a particular, a thing is covered by something, and therefore one does not experience anything. One does not experience the existence of anything. So it's a direct concealment of a object. This is one kind of pratibandha. Second kind of a pratibandha is it's a typical kind of a pratibandha, which we call as a distraction. Distraction or distortion, same thing. So here when one experiences the object basically, and still you are experiencing an object and yet you are missing it. In this case you are not experiencing, right, object, and therefore it is concealed. So that my hand has become an obstruction, pratibandha. But sometimes it happens that you are experiencing the thing and still for you it is non-existent and non-evident. So this is another type of pratibandha. So distraction, it is called distraction. Like when you are seeing my hand, right? You are seeing my hand, then definitely one is experiencing the hand and one is experiencing something else also. You know, you are experiencing something else. What do you experience? Can you tell me? You are experiencing. Let me ask you this thing. Do you experience one thing or two things?
Light and hand.
Ah, very good. He has given the answer. I should not have asked him. Anyway, so there are two things. Now, basically, when you are seeing my hand, you are experiencing my hand. You are experiencing hand and the light both. But so which enables, actually light is the one which enables you to see the hand. So light is very evident. But when you are experiencing the hand, as if even though light also is you are experiencing simultaneously, because without light you are not able to see my hand. So you are experiencing the light also. But yet light is non-evident, non-existent for you. Now hand has not worked like this. Here it is a concealment, but hand is right there. Light is also right there. Still, hand has as though covered the light. Hand could not cover the light. Light is more pervading. Hand is less pervading. In fact, the very hand is seen in the presence of light. Light gets reflected on, light falls on it, get reflected and comes to your eyes. Thereby you are able to see the hand. So even though you are able to see the light, and still you are saying I am seeing only hand. So we say the hand as though it has worked as a pratibandha. It is not really concealing. Hand is not concealing the light. Hand distracts the light for you. So you are able to hand. So pratibandha, definition of pratibandha is what? What is existent and what is evident. This pratibandha creates a distortion, creates a opposite notion in your mind. It is not and it is not evident. Same thing is happening with the here also. So hand is there. You are seeing hand, you are seeing light also, but as though you are just taking a notice of only hand at all. and their hand only, and therefore, so when I say what do you see, you say I am seeing hand. Then I say what do you see? If I ask you what do you see, you say I am seeing the color of the hand and the shape of the hand and all description you tell, but you don't say that I am seeing light. So that's amazing thing. So hand as though has worked as a pratibandha. Well, presence of light, I mean the experience of light and the existence of light as though is covered, and therefore hand falls in the definition of pratibandha. So, but hand is not working as a hand cannot work to conceal the light, but hand can distract your vision for the light, and therefore, so experiencing the light, most people miss the light. This is what it is. So the missing of the light is basically caused by the hand, which is experienced along with the light. So we figuratively say, well, hand covers the light. And it is a peculiar form of covering. It is really not concealing as such. Actually, the hand does not cover the light, but one misses the light because of one's focus on the hand. This is how we have defined, if you remember, the definition of Atma. I am trying to telling you, we have told in the definition of Atma in Tattvabodha, Panchakosha Atitaha. And so every kosha, the bodies, gross body, mind, senses, all are working as though kosha. Kosha means which covers. So this cannot be covered. Body cannot cover the limitless Atma. Body which is 5 feet 8 inches, how can it cover? So body is not working as a concealing agent for the Atma, but body basically, our attention, our identification to the body leads us for the concealing of Atma, as though we feel that there is no Atma. Body alone is Atma, and therefore we call body as a koshaha. Koshavat achchadakatvat koshaha. Basically, body cannot cover the Atma, but body as though we focus our attention on the body as the self. We identify with the body as the self, and therefore body is as though concealing the Atma. Body is a big pratibandha we call for the Atma. Could you follow that now? So this kind of a concealment is a different kind of a concealment. It's a covering. It's a different kind of a covering. Body cannot cover the Atma. Like I give you another example. I think Vedanta Sara has given this example. That the sun is covered by the cloud. Sun is covered by the cloud. Now cloud cannot cover the sun. Cloud cannot cover the sun. Cloud is so small, and the sun is 13,000 bigger than the even earth. How can it cover? Even in fact, what happens is the cloud is seen in the presence of sun. The very cloud is the existence of the cloud, and the revelation of the cloud is in presence of sun. That cloud, how can it cover the sun? The sun is not there, sun is not evident, sun is not experienced. Because of the cloud you are able to say that? Because of cloud, Swamiji, today there is no sun, I feel so gloomy, today. People say that. When it is so cloudy, they say like that. So sun basically cannot, the cloud cannot cover the sun. But cloud as though covers our vision of the sun. Could you follow what I am saying? So our focus is on the cloud, and thereby we say, that the sun is covered by the cloud. This is a pratibandha. Cloud is a pratibandha, but cloud cannot cover the sun. Cloud covers our vision of the sun. Anyway, I will give you another example also. So in a movie also it happens, one experiences, the screen. Basically you are experiencing the screen all the time. But when the movie is going on, you are engrossed, focused on the characters and situations and all that, events, etc. in the movie. And so engrossed that the movie, as though covers the screen for you, and without actually covering it. Because the very movie is possible because of the screen. And when you are seeing the movie, you are seeing the screen. And therefore, Screen is not covered as such, but basically you are so engrossed in the movie that it has covered the screen. Movie has worked as though as a cover for the screen. Movie has worked as a pratibandha to cover the screen. So it is because of actually coexistence of both screen and the movie, both. So one distracts the other. I mean, one works as a distracting agent for the other. That's all. One works as a distracting agent. So movie works as a distracting agent for other, or works as a covering agent for the other. In the same way, in the case of Atma also, even though we are experiencing the Atma all the time, we miss it. Well, because in spite of Atma being evident and experience all the time, I have told you in the morning itself, well, still you say, well, Atma Nasti. Well, there is, because you, Atma Nasti means you say that I am not Brahman. So as if your real nature has been covered. Atma Asti, Atma Bhati, etc. Well, you are not able to say because of the presence of this body, mind, sense complex. They work as though as a covering agent. Anyway, Vidyaranya says this ever existent and ever evident Atma is covered and concealed, and we make statement that Atma is not existent, Atma is not evident, etc. And this is caused by a pratibandha. It's an obstacle. So asti bhati iti vyavhara arha vastuni. Well, a thing which is very much experienced and evident is covered, like the light on the hand is covered. It is not covered as such by some agent, but I mean the hand itself, by the hand, which is covered by the hand. Light is covered by the hand, which is shining with the light. Coexistence of both the things are there, light and hand. But your focus is on the hand, and thereby you miss the presence of light. So for you there is no light. For light is not there. Light, and that's what the Vyavahara is. That is what the Vyavahara is. You describe so many sentences regarding hand, but you don't utter a single word that there is light also. You don't utter at all. Means there is no light for you. Right? The existence of light also is not there, and evidence of light is. Existence is possible because of evidence. If you experience the light, you will say, yeah, light is there. But you don't experience, and therefore you say there is no existence also of light. So this is how it is. Tan-nirasya, the experience and existence is negated by tat and tat viruddhasya. And the people, have a notion, just opposite notion, that non-existence and non-evident. That's called pratibandha. So pratibandha means covering and concealing. Real concealing agent may be there, which can conceal, like this hand is a concealing agent, or two things are coexisting together. Well, then you focus on one and miss the other. That's how it is. So miss the existence, evidence of other. When you miss the existence, even though it is existing and evident, and still you miss it, we say the other thing you have focused on, and therefore that has become as a pratibandha, that has become as an obstruction for not appreciating the existence and evidence of the other object. This is what is happening. So it's a different kind of a pratibandha. We have to note it. Now verse 14. Tasya hetu samana abhiharaha putra dhvani shrutau ihanadira vidyaiva vyamohaika nibandhanam. Now he brings that example again of that boy who is studying in the Pathshala. So putra dhvani shrutau tasya means pratibandhasya hetuhu samana abhiharaha bhavati. Well, putra dhvani shrutau, with respect to that the voice of that son, hearing the voice of that son, what is the pratibandha? Samana abhiharaha. Samana abhihara, chorus chanting. Abhihara means chanting, here uttering words, that is chanting. And samana abhihara, simultaneous chanting. So the chorus chanting is a pratibandha, is an obstacle to the voice of the son being fully recognized. And same way, iha means Atma Vishaye, with respect to Atma, which is ever evident, and with respect to that, Atma, which is ever evident, Anadi Avidya eva Pratibandhasya Karanam Bhavati. Anadi Avidya. So the Anatma, etc., is a very, we call it as a Avidya. Vidyaranya is going to tell as a Karana Shariram, and thereby Anatma. And therefore, the Anatma is so powerful that even though Atma is evident, Anatma is able to as though conceal it. It cannot conceal, but it is as though conceal, because our focus, our identification with Anatma. We take Anatma as a Atma, and thereby Anatma becomes a covering agent for the real Atma. That's what it wants to convey. So, this is how it is. So, therefore, this consciousness, which is my real nature, which is Brahman, which is limitless, is negated by the people because of our absorption, our focus on something else. So, normally we translate, as I told you, avidya as ignorance, but basically, Vidyaranya says it is Karana Shariram. He is going to tell it, which we experience in the Shushupti. Well, that is Mula Vidya. Regarding Mula Vidya, I want to say something else. I forgot that day. Mula Vidya is called a Karana Vidya, and Tula Vidya is called Karya Vidya also. And so, basically, it has been explained in many, many ways. Mula Vidya becomes a cause for the entire creation. So, entire creation is come out of the ignorance, and therefore, ignorance is a Karanam. And so, even the entire creation is also called Avidya, because the Karanam is Avidya. And therefore, basically, this is called Karya Vidya. And Mula Vidya, that is the ignorance pertaining to the self, is called Karana Vidya. Anyway, so this Avidya, Anadi Avidya eva, that is Karana Shariram, etc., is the cause, is a Pratibandha. Vyamohaika Nibandhanam, it is the only cause of several misconceptions. Ek Vyamohaika. So Vyamoha means misconception. Vyamoha Eka Nibandhanam. Nibandhanam means Karanam. So basically it is the only cause of misconception. Ekaha means only. So the ignorance pertaining to the self alone is the cause of several misconceptions regarding the self. Atmani. Iha Atmani Vishaye. Well, Anadi Avidya eva Vyamohaika Nibandhanam means this Karana Shariram, etc., or Avidya, Mula Vidya, etc., is a cause for several misconceptions. Like the ignorance of the rope is a cause for the misconception called snake. Same way. So even though Brahman is very evident, and Brahman alone is the existence, and therefore it can never be so that it will be non-existent. It's the nature of the Brahman that it is existence. But basically, and it exists in all the three periods of time, because it is Sat. It is existent in all the three periods of time, but we miss it because we see the world and we are engrossed in the world. We have our own likes and dislikes towards names and forms. Well, and then we miss the very existence on which all the names and forms exist. And therefore, since we don't know the self as a Brahman, and that avidya becomes a cause for the non-existence and non-evidence of Brahman as oneself. And so this is how, for example, like in the movie example I have given you, well, this in movie theater, the screen alone is caused, the screen whole, what we are seeing is the screen, but you don't know the screen. If avidya is there, then basically screen alone is existent in entire 3 hours. What I want to say is that alone is existent in entire during the casting of the movie. But well, the picture, the movie, etc., and the scenes, etc., and the characters, etc., well, we are so much engrossed that we miss the screen. But how do you say that we miss the screen? We never miss the screen. No, you miss the screen. You miss the screen because you scream. You scream. You scream so much. Yeah, you get up and yeah, because you see some horror movie. And therefore, you are so much afraid. That shows that you are not seeing screen. You are seeing only movie. Therefore, when two things are coexisting, when you are engrossed in one, definitely you will miss, and you miss what is real. That's a problem. You miss what is really there. You miss the very essence. Light, without light, this will not be possible to see, but you miss it, and therefore this is how the thing is. So this becomes as the obstacle. Movie becomes obstacle for not appreciating the screen, for non-evidence of screen, for non-existence of screen. The movie becomes an obstacle. So this clearly is an indicator that that this kind of pratibandha is there, etc. Anyway, so the same way this avidya also is there for several misconceptions regarding oneself. And so with this, verse 11 to verse 14, we have shown that avidya is a cause of this samsara karanam, or avidya is a cause of misconceptions regarding oneself. And now verse 15 to 32, Vidyaranya is going to describe the nature of samsara, etc. So samsara varnanam is a topic from verse 15 to 32. We'll see that. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.